Today, I'm taking a few minutes to answer a question that was submitted in the question box. And I haven't put the link in the show notes in quite a while. I'm going to start doing that again. But I want to thank the person that entered this question. And I hope that I can help with my response. Hi, I'm Shelly Covert, and I have a question for you. Are you tired of putting on a fake smile and pretending you're happy when you're really not? Are you ready to stop chasing happiness and create it instead? This world we live in makes us believe we need something newer or bigger or better to be happy. But guess what? That's not real happiness. I'm going to teach you what I've learned about creating real, authentic happiness. So if you're ready to stop faking it and be happy for real, you're in the right place. This is the Make Happiness Happen podcast. When I first started this podcast, I was including a link in the show notes description to what I called the question box. And I recently had a question entered into that. And the question was, how can I be happy when I just found out that my husband is having an affair? And I want to take some time today to just kind of share my thoughts around that. I want to start by saying I am so sorry for what you are going through. As if you've listened to my podcast and followed along, you know that I have had that same experience. And so I understand the pain, the feeling of loss, the shock, all of those feelings that you are probably experiencing right now. I've been through them as well. I think it is perfectly okay, and it's probably needed to give yourself a chance to mourn. And that's just part of the healing process, to let yourself feel angry, let yourself feel scared, let yourself feel sad, shocked, all of those feelings. I think it's very important for us to feel the feelings and to let ourselves feel those feelings. They're not fun at all. And I'm not recommending like any harm or self-harm or anything like that. But I think it's very important that we process through those feelings, because when we bottle up how we feel, it's just, to me, I kind of think of like a volcano, and how underneath the surface there's all this lava that's hot and rumbly and bubbling. And if that doesn't have a way to escape, then at some point it's going to explode. But if there is a small seam where it can like seep out or steam out, or I'm not sure exactly how volcanoes work, but if it can let itself go like slowly, then you maybe avoid that eruption. And really, like in my mind, that blow up, that feeling, that causes even more damage. And so that would be my first recommendation, is to let yourself feel the feelings. But in order to do that, I feel like you need to surround yourself with people who love you, who care about you. You need to find a support staff, a circle of friends, a circle of acquaintances, people who maybe have gone through what you're going through right now. And you need to let yourself depend on them, let yourself rely on them, because that's, community is what this world is about. And I feel like in recent years we've lost some of that. But I think it's very important, especially when we're processing through some of these traumatic experiences, that we have people we can depend on and have people that we can lean on. I was talking with a friend today, and we were even just talking over Zoom. So if you can't be physically in the same space with friends, we can FaceTime and, or Skype or Zoom. Like, we have so many ways that we can actually talk with people. But I was talking with a friend, and I was just able to kind of talk through some things I'm struggling with right now. And my friend didn't have all the answers, but she sat there and she listened, and she just let me process through. And really being able to kind of talk through and express our feelings. One, like I said, it's getting those feelings out, but I also think it's very important for us to hear ourselves talk through those feelings. because a lot of times just vocalizing those things kind of helps process through it. And, when it comes to infidelity in a relationship, that's a shock. That's probably, in my opinion, one of the most devastating things that can happen. It really can wreak havoc on the relationship. It causes us to question a lot of things. At least for me, it caused me to question if I was worthy, if I was what I had done wrong, all these things. It almost made me question myself more than my spouse at the time who had the affair. And I think that in a way that can be good, because I do believe in the saying, it takes two to tango, that in every relationship there's a cause and effect. But I also feel in a situation like this, the spouse that cheated is the one that made the decision to do that. And there probably wasn't anything that I could have done or not done that would have prevented that. I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion. But I do think it's good for us to process through those things that we are feeling. And once you've had that time to process, it takes everybody a different amount of time, but, you give yourself the time to grieve, you give yourself the time to process. And as you're processing through all of this, I think it's helpful if you can process through it with a forward view. And I guess to explain that, I kind of like to say, I can't go back and change the past. What has happened in the past, what has happened, has happened. I can't undo it. I can't change it. As much as I want to, I can't. It happened. But what I can do is make changes that will change my future. And so we want to try to focus forward. We want to keep moving forward. And this is where sometimes I feel like happiness is a state of mind more than a feeling. Because when you're going through trauma like that, you're not going to feel happy. But if you make an intentional effort to still remind yourself that you have good things in your life, you have the friends that you are depending on right now, you have maybe the other family members that are there supporting you, you have resources that you can turn to. Those are things that are still good in your life. And if you can focus on what is still good, that can help you move forward and help you get back to or get to a state of happiness. So it's not always a feeling, sometimes it is a choice. When you're going through some of those situations, sometimes it's nice to be able to have an escape. And so maybe it is you go out with your girlfriends, or maybe you go watch a movie with a really close friend, or I don't know, something that brings you joy, something that makes you happy, something that can help you maybe escape your situation for a short amount of time. Obviously, once again, I'm not talking about anything that would cause harm or anything like that, but just something that you have enjoyed doing in the past. I think it's really important to make an effort to still do some of those things, to still interact with the people that make you feel special. And all of that. And I just think, especially in this time, that's incredibly important. And I think that's part of this authentic happiness. We've talked a lot about how authentic happiness, it really is a choice, because in life we do have the choice to focus on the things that bring us sadness, the things that hold us back, or we can focus on the things that can move us forward and the things that bring us happiness. And this is one of those times where it's really helpful if you can make that intentional decision to focus on the things that are going to move you forward, the things that will bring you happiness in your life. Adversity, is one of those things that it is really painful. It is really crappy to go through. I wish we didn't have to go through it, but it really does help us grow. It helps us become stronger. It helps us dig into who we are, into what makes us unique and special and strong. If you've followed my podcast, you've heard me talk about the the trees, the biosphere too. I almost forgot what it was called. And how when this was like basically a recreation of the planet, but they built it inside this dome or this biosphere. And what happened is that the trees got to a certain height and they kept falling over and they couldn't figure out what was happening. And after a while, they figured out that there was no wind in the biosphere. And because there was no wind, the roots didn't have to go down very deep. And the trees would get to a certain height where the roots couldn't hold the trees up anymore. And they learned that it was the wind, that pushing and the rocking on the trees, the swaying from side to side, that's what actually helped the roots of the trees grow deeper. And so when we're going through an experience like having a spouse that has been unfaithful, that's like the wind that is pushing against us and making us stronger. You know, if you are someone who likes to work out and lift weights and do those types of things, you know that your muscles don't get stronger without those weights, without that resistance. And so if you can remind yourself that these times in life, these times when we struggle and these times when we have to persevere and push through these challenging events, that these are the times that will make us stronger, that can help as well. You know, and so that would be kind of my recommendation on that situation. It's not easy. Like I said, I have been through it and it takes a lot of time to process through. For me, it was, if I remember, it was probably close to a year before we finally processed through everything. And in our situation, you know, it ended up in a divorce. I do believe that there are times when, you know, maybe it can make a relationship stronger, but I think every relationship is different. And so I just want you to protect your heart, protect your soul, but also like don't shut yourself down. Turn to the people that you know you can trust, the people that love you, lean on them, depend on them, share your feelings with them, process through all of that, and then make the choice to not get stuck in that muck, but make the choice to move forward with your life, to choose things that can still bring you that authentic happiness in your life. You know, authentic happiness is knowing who you are, being who you are, and loving who you are. And sometimes these challenging situations can really help us with that process because the challenges in life really help us figure out who we are. And once we have an idea of who we are, then that's when we learn to be that person. And after we've started, you know, becoming that person and doing the things that we want to do, you know, we become more comfortable in our skin and we learn to love ourselves even more. So my heart is with you. My prayers are with you as you process through all of this. I also, for everyone else, I'm going to put that link back into the comments or the show notes. And not that I have all the answers by any means, but, you know, I would love to just be able to kind of talk through situations or answer questions that you might have just based off the experiences that I've had. Because, you know, authentic happiness, if we can get to that state, if we can make that choice and choose to be authentically happy, then that's going to help us process through this life and live a happy life. So thank you. And until next time, friends, do the best that you can to choose to be happy. As always, thank you so much for tuning into the Make Happiness Happen podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts. And even better, leave a positive review. If you want to dive deeper into the topics and discussions we have here, I would encourage you to head over to makehappinesshappen.com and sign up for my newsletter. It's the best way for us to get to know each other even better. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Make Happiness Happen podcast.